Congressional staff are employees of the United States Congress or individual members of Congress. History. Before the American Civil War, members of Congress did not have staff assistants or even officers, and most members worked at their desks on the floor. In 1891, Congress had a total of 146 staff members, 37 Senate personal staff, 39 Senate committee staff, and 62 House committee staff. The House first approved personal staff for representatives in 1893. By the beginning of the 20th century, congressional staff had become a well-accepted feature of congressional operations. In 1943, House committees employed 114 staff members, while Senate committees employed 190 staff members. The size of individual members' personal staffs were still relatively small, with the average senator having 6 staffers and representatives limited to having 5 staffers. In the Legislative Reorganization Act of 1946, which reformed Congress and greatly reduced the number of congressional committees, Congress expressly authorized permanent, professional committee staff for the first time. The act provided for a much-needed increase in committee staff, allowing for up to 4 professional and 6 clerical staff members for each standing committee, except for the Appropriations Committees. The 1946 Act also reorganized the Library of Congress and created the Legislative Reference Service as a distinct entity. The size of both personal and committee staff increased considerably after the passage of the Legislative Reorganization Act. Following the significant increase in 1947, there was gradual growth in the number of both kinds of staff for about 20 years. Increased staff specialization also occurred during this period of slow growth. In the 1970s, there was again a sharp jump in the number of staff. This was a response, in part to increased workloads and in part to confrontation with the executive branch on various issues, including the president's impoundment of funds and the Watergate crisis. The political scientist Morris P. Fiorina, in his book Congress, Keystone of the Washington Establishment, found that the number of congressional staff more than doubled between 1960 and 1974. The increase was mostly in district or state offices. The percentage of congressional staff who worked in a district office went from 14% in 1960 to 34% in 1974. In the 1970s and 1990s, staff numbers generally held level and increases were held down. After 1995, staff numbers actually decreased slightly. Types of staff members. C-SPAN classifies staff members into 5 categories: personal staff, who work for individual members of Congress; committee staff, who serve either the majority or minority on congressional committees; leadership staff, who work for the Speaker, majority and minority leaders, and majority and minority whips in the House of Representatives; and the majority and minority leaders and assistant majority and minority leaders in the Senate. Institutional staff, including majority and minority party floor staff and non-partisan staff such as the Capitol Police, architect of the Capitol, and legislative clerks. Support agency staff, non-partisan employees of the Congressional Research Service, Congressional Budget Office, and Government Accountability Office. In the year 2000, there were approximately 11,692 personal staff, 2,492 committee staff, 274 leadership staff, 5,034 institutional staff, and 3,500 GA employees, 747 CRS employees, and 232 CBO employees. Personal staff. In 2000, every representative hired 14 staff members, while the average senator hired 34. In 2000, Representatives had a limit of 18 full-time and 4 part-time staffers. Senators had no limit on staff. Budgets for staff were determined by the population of the state. Senators from California, the most populous state, get more money for staff than senators from Wyoming, the least populous state. Members can choose how to distribute staff between the Washington office and the United States Congressional District Home Office or offices. The Congressional Management Foundation, a Washington-based research and management consulting firm, conducts surveys on congressional salaries. The table below gives average annual salaries in the year 2000. Also below is a list of annual House salaries and the number of staffers with particular titles in 2009 as calculated by Daniel Schumann of the Sunlight Foundation. The numbers are drawn from the House of Representatives Statement of Disbursements of the House, July 1, 2009 through September 30, 2009. Quarterly earnings were multiplied by 4 to obtain annual salaries, so the data omits bonuses and does not account for staffers who did not work the entire quarter, staffers who carried different titles for the same job, or staffers changing jobs during the quarter. The chart also omits committee staff and a number of job titles that could not easily be classified or had less than 50 people. Not all offices have the same type of organization, and different titles may be used for substantially similar jobs. Common jobs are Chief of Staff, highest-ranking and usually highest-paid legislative staffer in the office of a member of Congress, usually the chief operating officer of the office, reporting directly to the member. Oversees a dozen or more other employees. Some chiefs of staffs are charged with personnel decisions and policy initiatives. From time to time a chief of staff may be based out of a district office, but they are almost always found at the Capitol. Chiefs of staff are usually very experienced political staffers, often with years of prior work on the Hill, or are personal friends of members. Some chiefs of staff were previously campaign managers. Deputy Chief of Staff reports to the Chief of Staff. Legislative Director, Senior Legislative Assistant, or Legislative Coordinator is a person who oversees legislative staff, including all legislative assistants and correspondents. There is usually one in each office. Legislative Correspondent, responsible for drafting letters in response to constituents' comments and questions, and also generally responsible for a few legislative issues. According to the Dirksen Congressional Center, most House offices have 1 or 2, while senators have 3 to 5, depending on the state's population. Press Secretary, a communications director, responsible for members' relationship with media, is the liaison for the local and national press, issues press releases. Caseworkers are constituent services representatives responsible for helping constituents deal with problems relating to federal agencies. For example, caseworkers help individuals secure veterans' benefits, aid with Social Security and Medicare, and resolve immigration issues. Caseworkers may also provide mediation services to constituents and obtain government information and publications. Committee staff. Each congressional committee has of staff of varying sizes. Appropriations for committee staff are made in annual legislative appropriations bills. Majority and minority members hire their own staff except on 2 select committees in each house, the Committee on Standards of Official Conduct, and Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence in the House, and the Select Committee on Ethics and Senate Select Committee on Intelligence in the Senate. These committees have a single staff. In 2000, House committees had an average of 68 staff and Senate committees an average of 46. Committee staff includes both staff directors, committee counsel, committee investigators, press secretaries, chief clerks and office managers, schedules, documents clerks, and assistants.